a chicken cost that much.
And it's on the scrawny side, if you ask me. I think Henderson used to have the plumpest poultry in town.
A whole chicken. You know, and here I was thinking that a few drumsticks would do.
Well, I looked for some five-legged chickens, but Henderson seems to be fresh out.
The tomatoes, the potatoes, the carrots. This is going to cost me a small fortune. And I haven't sold an automobile in 2 weeks. Just some tires and some oil.
Are you saying you don't have the $4 you promised me to be your cook tonight?
Oh, no. You get paid, Miss McGreevy. I promise.
How about we just trust each other and make that payment in advance?
Right, $4 you say?
I charge everything at Henderson's in your name. If I know Lucas Henderson, he'll be around to collect before you're 3 days older.
There we go. $4.
Thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Now, you do the best you can with that chicken, Miss McGreevy.
I will, and I'll mash and spread the potatoes about and cut the carrots real small like.
Yeah, that'll do.
At least put plenty of onion soup, unless someone asks for seconds. I better add more water just to be sure.
Actually, Miss McGreevy, I was wondering if tonight you could pretend to be a regular cook.
You want me to lie, Mr. Singleton? I'm a good Christian.
No, not a lie. I just want my guests to think I can afford that.
That sounds like lying to me.
Look, it's not a lie. Just listen. When you come out with the food, say something like, "Here you are, Mr. Singleton, just the way you always like it."
Just the way you always like it.
Exactly.
I guess that won't do any harm. But my, you are certainly putting on airs for these guests. They must be mighty important.
Well, it is my fiance and her parents.
Oh, I get you.
You see, I just want
I
them to-
understand. You don't have to say one word more. Now, I better get back to that scrawny chicken. Just the way you always like it.
Thank you, Ariel.
Guess
Ariel!
You can barely carry me anymore. You've gone soft.
You have gotten bigger. You're a grown-up now. Quit acting like
Like the girl next
the
door.
kid next door.
What do you have your stuff for? Going to a revival meeting?
If you haven't noticed, I'm having people over for dinner.
Wonderful! I'll go home and get changed and get my hair done.
Oh, you're not invited, Ariel. In fact, I want you far away from here tonight.
Who's coming? Teddy Roosevelt? Is it Libby and Russell?
Oh, ha! Very funny. If you must know, it's my fiance and her parents.
Another fiance?
Whatever do you mean?
Well, when are you going to stop getting engaged to Oswald and realize you're in love with me? The girl next door.
Oh, look, I'll have you know, I've only been engaged twice. Okay, 3 times. But Daphne's different. She's so sophisticated and smart and beautiful. And
So. I can already tell you're in trouble. Where did you meet this one?
It was a boat going down Lily Lake. It was love at first sight.
Love at first sight? When my family moved in next door, and that very same day, you and I were making mud pies in the backyard we shared. That was love at first sight.
We were 6 years old. Ariel, one does not marry whom they made mud pies with.
They ought to.
Listen, just because we've lived next to each other all of these
I
years...
could have moved. Michael O'Dougherty asked me to marry him and take me to Springfield, but I didn't go. Do you know why? Of course you don't. Because before your mother died, she asked me to take care of you, and your father said the same thing before he passed on.
Sneaking into my house and jumping on my back is hardly what I call looking after me.
It's one of my many ways.
Could that be Daphne already?
I'll get it.
No, it's too early. It must be...
It's Miss Bannister.
Ah, Miss Bannister. That dress.
I've come to tell you that I can't do play acting tonight, Mr. Singleton. My worthless son-in-law decided he wanted to go to Centerville with my Clara and see the vaudeville show that got there tonight. So I have to babysit my 3 grandkids.
Play acting?
Oh, no, this is terrible. Miss Bannister, you promised me.
I know what I said, and I sure can use the $4. I just can't do it. Sorry.
Will, what's going on here?
Daphne and her parents will be here any moment, and they want to meet my grandma.
Grandma, you don't have a...
Look, Miss Bannister, I am willing to pay you $5.
That's a good amount of money for pretending to be a rich grandma. They just can't do it. Sorry.
Mrs. Bannister, Mr. Singleton wanted to pay you for his grandma?
For $4.
$5?
Why? Why?
He needed a rich grandma, and I needed $4.
$5?
He wanted to impress the folks from out of town. Good night, Mr. Singleton. Sorry.
Will, why?
Daphne doesn't find my job selling automobiles lucrative, so I told her I had a grandma giving me everything in her will.
Of all the nerve.
I was desperate!
Not you, her! What kind of woman would marry a man for his grandma's money?
She thinks selling cars is a passing fad, and I believe her parents think the same way as well. They're coming all the way down from Centerville to meet me and my grandma, and I don't have a grandma.
You certainly do not. Both your grandmas are long dead.
What am I going to do?
You're going to tell this Daphne there's no grandma. There's no grandma's fortune. Furthermore, the auto business is not a passing fad, and it has a great future. And if that's not good enough for your precious Daphne, then...
I have an idea.
What?
You have a grandma.
Yes, but she's mine. And she isn't rich.
That does not matter. For one night, she can pretend.
What Singleton, are you suggesting?
No. Your grandma is a real sweetheart. I know she would do it for me.
She's a sweetheart, and she probably would, but that doesn't mean...
Ariel, you promised my dying parents that you would look after me, and tonight I really need your help. Please.
That's so deceiving. Please. I don't like lying to folks.
Please.
Fine, I'll do it.
Ariel, you are one in a million.
If only you realized it.
Mr. Singleton?
Yes, Miss McGreevy?
What's with all the wine?
I'm not sure if her parents are imbibed in spirits or not. Just keep it in the kitchen, and I'll ask them if they want a sip or two.
If they drink like my husband, this won't last through the soup.
Perhaps they are teetotalers. Oh, I hope so. That wine is very expensive, and if I'm lucky, I can sell it back to Phineas and more if they're still corked.
I hope so. That chicken seems to be getting smaller and smaller the more I cook it.
For drinks, we'll have water. Plenty of water. Time already? That must be them.
No, that's the first mistake.
Ariel! I thought you were... What did your grandma say?
She said yes. She's delighted. She's getting her nicest clothes on right now.
Oh, wonderful! What mistake?
You should never answer the door when your guests arrive.
Miss McGreevy's in the kitchen.
You have Miss McGreevy involved in this?
She's the cook.
A pretend cook?
No, she's actually cooking dinner for us.
Oh. But that isn't, but the cook should never answer the door when your guests arrive. You need something like a butler or a housemaid.
Now, what makes you think I have that? Look, you need to get home and get her ready, have her back here right before...
You go into the dining room, and I'll usher them into the sitting room, and then you can make your entrance.
What?
No! Come in, please.
Zimmerman family to see Mr. Singleton.
Wonderful. Please come in. May I take your hats and your wraps?
Oh, please do. It was so stuffy in the carriage. I should have worn my blue one.
Miss, your wrap? Just...
Of course.
Mr. Singleton will be with you presently. He's conferring with the cook at the moment.
Why? What a sweet little house. Little is just the word for it.
At least he has a cook and a maid.
I don't like her. She'll be the first thing to go. And there's a sweet little garden in the back.
Vegetable or floral?
I can't quite tell.
Good evening.
William, my darling boy.
You're looking very lovely, Daphne, as always.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to my father and mother. Oh, Mr. Singleton, Daphne has told us so much about you. Well, not everything. Certainly not everything, but so much all the same.
Pleased to meet you too, Mrs. Zimmerman. And you too, Mr. Zimmerman.
Mr. Singleton.
Isn't he everything I told you he was? Oh, and so much more. But not too much. Certainly not too much.
Actually, Daphne has told us very little.
Oh, Father, don't tease. You remember what I said.
I don't recall a darn thing.
Well, then tonight you'll learn all about William. Won't you, darling?
Whatever you would like to know, please be seated, won't you?
I was just saying to Daphne what a sweet little house you have.
It is the house that I grew up in.
Oh, how charming.
It is small, but suits my needs at the present moment. However, if circumstances were to change, I may have to move into a larger home.
Circumstances? What circumstances?
Circumstances, financially and maritally, you know.
Oh, William, where's your grandmother? You said she'd be joining us.
Oh, yes, indeed she will. At any moment. Ariel, please come here. Do you know where my grandmother is?
Oh, she's taking a stroll in the garden. Shall I go fetch her?
Yes, please do.
Very good.
William and his grandmother are very close. That's so sweet. Very, very close. Isn't that right, William?
Yes, I feel like I have known her all of my life.
Which you have, I imagine.
Is she the one that's supposed to have all this money?
Well, indeed, Mrs. Zimmerman, my grandma is, well positioned financially.
And William is our only heir, Father. Certainly remember my saying that.
I recall something of the sort.
Here she is now. Lovely.
Ah, good evening, Grandma. Please have a seat right over here.
Yes, Mrs. Bannister.
Oh, may Ariel take your hat?
What for? She just put it on me. Besides, I like it. I think I'll keep it on.
It's very becoming, Mrs. Singleton.
Who? Oh, yeah, my hat. Thank you.
I think it is simply charming.
Grandma, this is Daphne, whom I've told you much about.
So nice to meet you.
And these are our parents, Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman.
We've heard all about you, dear. But not all, just some. But enough, certainly enough.
A pleasure to meet you, ma'am.
I live just next door. You know, it is so comforting to live so close to my favorite grandson.
You mean your only grandson, right?
Is he what I meant? Then I suppose I did.
William speaks of you all the time, Mrs. Singleton.
That's nice. Who's William?
She means me, Grandma. Apologies, she always used to call me Will.
Isn't that darling?
William? Sounds so common.
That's what his parents called him, and all the neighbors. Isn't that right, Will?
Yes, Grandma.
You'll always be William to me.
Did you know that my grandson is in the automobile business? Isn't that just exciting?
Well,
Well, only temporarily.
I love the horses' carriages, though they can be pretty noisy sometimes.
They can be very noisy indeed.
automobiles are just a passing time. They never replace a good old reliable horse.
Perhaps not, but,
I can't stand the smell of hay. Always hated it. Don't need no hay with the horse's carriage.
What a sweet observation.
And some of them new autos be so pretty, especially the ones with all that shiny stuff on them.
you mean the chrome?
Is that what they call it? I like it.
It all looks a bit tacky to me. Give me a nice black and brown carriage with leather seats and a fine pair of horses.
But carriages can be so stuffy.
Plenty of fresh air in an auto with the roof a thing down. Will has some dazzling autos for sale.
Just a passing fad. The sooner William gets out of that business, the better.
Let's just, change the subject.
Mr. Singleton,
Oh, yes, Ariel?
the cook wants to know if she shouldn't cook the wine.
Ah, the wine. Say, I'm not sure if any of you would like a sip or two before dinner, but I have taken the liberty to...
Not for me, William. I don't drink alcohol in any form.
The same for me.
I wouldn't mind a nip or two, Will. It's good for the blood.
Yes, I believe I'll be joining your grandmother, Mr. Singleton.
Very well, sir. I'll be joining you as well. Yes, tell them to come to uncork the bottles and have another 3 people.
Better make that 4. Mother, what? I'm thirsty.
Make that 4.
Yes, sir.
You know, Mr. Singleton, I was reading in the newspaper the other day about this Ford fellow and his mass-produced automobile.
That is correct, Mrs. Zimmerman. It is the Model T Ford. Very reasonably priced.
Autos for the middle class? Just imagine the horrors of that.
Yes, now only people as well positioned as your grandmother can afford an auto.
Do you have one of those autos, Mrs. Singleton?
I have too.
Don't say.
2 autos? That's ridiculous.
Say, what manufacturer are they?
Well, Grandma doesn't know about such technical things.
Grandmother's smarter than you think. Mr. Zimmerman, one of them is blue and the other one is yellow.
Here's the wine, Mr. Singleton. Just the way you always like it.
Thank you, Miss Ripley.
Thank you.
Dinner ought to be ready soon.
That's good. I'm starved.
Now, Grandma, you might want to remember what the doctor said. You shouldn't overdo it on the food or else you'll get indigestion.
Indigestion? First I've ever heard of it.
Thank you, and Miss Ripley.
Good wine, Will. You don't know what you're missing, dearie.
I'm sure I would have wore the stuff.
On the other hand, you may be right.
Wine is acceptable if kept in its place.
Man, I know just the place.
Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman, I cannot thank you enough for coming all the way down from Centerville to meet me and my grandma tonight. It was very kind of you.
Well, we were just dying to meet you, Mr. Singleton. Well, not really dying, but you know what I mean.
I so wanted you to meet my parents, William. I knew you guys would like each other at first sight.
Of course, and Grandma was anxious to meet all of you.
Just dying to. Is there any more wine in that bottle?
How about we save it for dinner?
If I live that long, I'm starving.
So you said.
And I meant it too.
Have you noticed how early it gets dark these days? Seems we are lighting the lamps sooner and sooner each evening.
Yes, it seems autumn is certainly upon us.
Yes.
I detest the fall. I have to put away all of my summer outfits and wear the most dreary colors.
Oh, but Daphne, you have such lovely autumn dresses. That maroon outfit and the brown stripe and gray and black and red. You know.
I wonder what's taking so long with my dinner.
Just what I was thinking, Will. How about another drink while...
Dinner is served.
Thank you, Ariel.
At last, someone grab that wine bottle.
Okay. I'll have Mrs. Zimmerman at the table right there. And Daphne, the chair right next to her. And Grandma will sit at her usual spot.
My usual place.
And Zimmerman right there, and yeah, I think we're all ready.
Some nice cold water, Mr. Singleton. Just the way you always like it.
Thank you, Miss McGreevy. Ding dong! Who could be calling at this hour?
I'll get it, Mr. Singleton.
Thank you, Ariel.
Well, how's it look?
Very
Cancer, what are you doing here? My worthless son-in-law decided he got a toothache, and he decided he didn't want to go to the father shop after all. So here I am, hoping it's time for dinner.
But my grandma's already taking your place.
What? I need that $5.
But she's already been introduced as to Will's guest as his grandma.
I need that money more than Beulah Wells does, and I got all dressed up to be here.
But if you go in there now, you'll ruin everything and
You'll ruin everything!
after all, a person can have two grandmas, can't they?
I did.
Wonderful. Wait here.
Who was it, Ariel?
It was your grandma, Mr. Singleton.
My... What?
Who?
Your other grandma. The one from your mother's side. Grandma Bannister.
Bannister? Well, don't keep the old girl waiting. Come on in, Lucy! Beulah, Will didn't tell me you'd be here. That's my Will, full of surprises.
Daphne, Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman. My grandma on my mother's side.
Oh, I'm sure.
Isn't this fine?
I'm glad you didn't start without me.
Oh, we wouldn't think of such things, Grandma.
Here's soup, Mr. Singleton. Just the way you always like it.
Miss McGreevy, we have another guest. My other grandma, Grandma Bannister.
Lucy Bannister?
Yes, she'll be joining us for dinner.
That soup smells delicious, Miss McCreevy.
I forgot to season it. It'll just take a moment.
I'll go get another place then.
Thank you, Ariel.
At this rate, we'll never get fed.
I'm afraid there's been a little mix-up.
Certainly seems that way.
Let me explain. You see, my grandson invited me here to dinner to meet all of you, but I had a previous engagement and had to decline. But at the last minute, it was canceled.
And we're thrilled to death that you're here. Well, not actually thrilled to death, but you know what I mean.
Here for some wine, Mrs. Bannister.
I'll take more than a sip.
Okay.
It appears to be empty.
I noticed that too, Will.
I suppose I'll ask the cook if there's another bottle.
I saw another wine on the shelf. Shall I go cork it?
Yes, please.
William, I had no idea you had such a large family. Are there more of you?
grandmas.
Such a blessing to have both grandmothers.
That's what I like to tell myself.
Is this supposed to be onion soup?
Yes, Mrs. Singleton, it's an old family recipe.
Not my family.
Not mine either. They smell like water.
Now, Grandma and Grandma, mind your manners.
Does taste like that.
Any more wine, anyone? Bring it here, Ariel.
Just like the bottle, dear.
Thank you, Ariel.
So, which of you two grandmas is the one loaded with money?
She is. I am.
What a question to ask, Daphne. I'm totally ashamed of you. Well, not totally. It's a silly expression, really, but you know what I mean.
No, I do not think dinner is an appropriate place to discuss such matters.
Well, in this case, I do. You drove all the way down to just Pittsburgh to meet William's rich grandmother, and I just want to know which of the two is her.
I think that is a fair question. Will, pass the wine bottle if you please.
Grandma, I don't think...
Thank you, Grandmother Singleton.
You know, Daphne, I am the one who you say is loaded with money. Miss Bannister is just a poor relative you tolerate on an occasion.
I don't like that.
Grandma, such things to say.
Take tonight, for example. Here we all are, having a nice little dinner party, and who comes crashing in?
But I did not come crashing in. I was invited.
Grandma! Grandma!
First she says she's coming, then she's not. Then she shows up. Typical.
I'll have you know, it was all my worthless son-in-law's fault.
Son-in-law?
Grandma Bannister, you're not making any sense.
She never did make any sense. Runs in her side of the family.
I resent that.
Here are the potatoes, Mr. Singleton. Just the way you always like them.
Thank you, Miss Katrina.
It wasn't my husband who lost his marbles and thought he was William to come say Sherman.
And Ariel has the carrots, just the way you always like them.
My grandpa didn't think he was willing to come to Sherman. It was Stonewall Jackson. He was the sweetest man that ever was.
Ariel?
Now Jermaine's talking crazy. I told you she'd be the first one to go. I am very confused at this point.
Now, I, for one, would enjoy a reasonable explanation as to what is going on here.
Lucy Bannister. Everyone knows that your twin sister ended up in the loony bin in Shutterville. Probably from all those years living with you.
There's a loony bin in Suttersville?
It's in Shackleton. Shows how much you know.
Shutterville, Shabalin, what's the difference? She thought she was a polecat and had to be put away.
A hedgehog, not a polecat.
Yes, I didn't think there was a loony bin in Suttersville.
I'm afraid you'll have to excuse my two grandmas. Whenever they get together, they like to reminisce about old times.
William, was everyone in your family crazy? Were they?
Now I fear we have stumbled upon a topic that doesn't concern us. Perhaps we ought to depart.
No, Mr. Zimmerman, I can explain everything.
I'd like to see that.
The little nothing of a maid, you certainly don't know your place.
I'm not more of a maid than you are a lady.
Listen, I can explain everything. If everyone just calm down.
Did you hear what she just said to me?
It's not that.
Now I, yet again, would like to ask if there's a reasonable explanation for everything here.
Well, Ariel isn't my maid. She's been my neighbor, and she's been my best friend forever.
And what about her? Is she not your cook?
No.
Can't you ask for small favors?
But I do cook. Oh, gracious. Goodness.
The chicken!
So is no one here who they say they are?
Actually, Mrs. Zimmerman, I do sell automobiles. That part is true. However, everything else was just an attempt to impress you, sir, so you could think that I'm in the right financial position to marry your daughter. And it all went horribly. I apologize profusely and sincerely.
So there's no rich grandmother?
Don't look at me. Or her.
My, but this has been a very interesting evening.
What is that awful smell?
Yes.
The chicken, sir, it's kind of not very.
Just say it's me.
You should go check on that with me, Gracie.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I, for one, would like to say a few words.
Listen, Daphne, your father's going to make a speech.
No, not a speech, just a few words. See, I am a self-made man.
It sounds like a speech to me. I've heard it before.
I did not inherit family, property, or social prestige, yet today I own and operate one of the largest pickle company in 2 states. So the fact that you were inheriting from your grandfather did not impress me.
Good, because I haven't a penny.
How's that, Grandma?
But on the other hand, I do enjoy a man who I believe is on the bottom of a very important industry,
What's he talking about?
the automobile industry. I believe that with Ford's new car, there will, well, the car it'll eventually outdo the horse, and the men who are on the ground floor of this operation will become giants in the industry.
Bravo, Mr. What's Your Name? Woo!
And so, I do not only give you my consent to marry my daughter, but also would like to invest $10,000 in your little small company here.
Wait, so I don't have a say in any of this?
You do, Daphne, but let me thank your father for his kind words. Unfortunately, I cannot accept either offer. Daphne, you are too much of a fine lady for me, and I don't think you'll accept me for who I am. And my small business, as you call it, is about to go bankrupt. I now see that I cannot take your daughter or your money in good conscience.
Now, Mr. Singleton, despite your confession, I am willing to dump a lot of money into your small company here. Let's make a deal.
Give me a moment. I wish to consult my lawyer. Ariel, you mind coming into the back room with me?
Well,
It'll only take a moment. Please come with me.
suppose so. What is going on with me?
I think instead of pretending to be his maid, she's now pretending to be his lawyer.
I wonder when I'll get my $5.
What $5?
Your penny is grandma. You only pay me 4 for pretending to be his cook.
I think you made a better grandma than you made a cook.
You two got hay? I've got a few words for my so-called grandson. I think he's busy at the moment. I'll talk to him later. Is there more wine in that bottle? The nurse still hasn't come back from Wilson's drugstore. I was expecting her to be back by now, but you can never tell with a nurse because sometimes they can be so slow. I hope I did right sending her, and she's really ought to be here looking after you, Grandma Huddle, don't you think? But I've had such a headache all day, and I really didn't think it would matter since it was your nap time, and I really need those headache drops, or I'll never be able to take a nice little nap myself. But it appears you're having a nice little nap yourself, Grandma Huddle. So I won't disturb you any longer, and I'll leave you in peace. So go downstairs and wait for the nurse. I do hope you weren't upset with me for sending the nurse to Wilson's, Grandma Huddle, because if you get cross with me, then Grandma gets upset with me because we have to keep on your good side at all times because of the money. But I want to be on your good side at all times, Grandma Huddle, because you're my only living grandmother, and since Mama died, you're like a mother to me, even though you're my grandma and not my mama. So, it's all right, although we'll seem that there should be back by now. But I'll just go downstairs, wait for the nurse, and tiptoe away. Okay. Yeah, I can tell you're upset with me, Grandma Huddle, because you're giving me the silent treatment, and it always makes me feel so bad when you do that, but I really am sorry. So
They say you were upset with me about the nurse Grandma Huddle. Please. Huddle, it's me, granddaughter, Agnes. Grandma Huddle?
Oh my gracious goodness! Duncan! Duncan! She's not even snoring, Duncan. I don't think she's even breathing. I think she's...
Could be, finally, after all these years. Yeah, seems quite dead to me.
Grandma Huddle.
Oh, now you mean rich Grandma Huddle. Where's the nurse?
I sent her to Wilson's to give me some headache drops. She's on to be back any moment.
No matter. We need Dr. Witherspoon to write our death certificate. Send Daisy to the...
It's Daisy's afternoon off. Oh, Duncan,
Can control yourself, Agnes. Now, I need you to go to Dr. Witherspoon's office to get a death certificate signed.
But Duncan dear, shouldn't we contact Mr. Shotman at the funeral home?
All of that can wait. Now do as I tell you. Go to Dr. Witherspoon, and I'll stay here and...
Stay and look after Grandma Huddle? Oh, that's very sweet of you, Duncan.
Will you listen to me, Agnes? I will stay here and look for the will. Where do you think she keeps it?
I don't know. She keeps all her important papers in the writing desk in the parlor.
Writing desk. Perfect. Now, you go get the doctor, and I'll look in the writing desk.
All right, Duncan. Poor Grandma Huddle.
Poor Grandma Huddle indeed. Better done right by your only granddaughter, or else.
Eleanor! Eleanor! Eleanor? There you are. The front door was open and there was no one downstairs, so I just came up. I had some trouble on the steps though. It appears I left the house with my reading glasses instead of my regular specs. But no matter, I wanted to see you, Eleanor, my sweet. Whew. Hold this for just a second. Oh my. Whew. Do you know what today is? Oh, don't play coy with me, Eleanor. It's the 15th. You said you gave the answer on the 15th. Don't you remember? Well, I certainly have not forgotten. And it's the 15th, so what do you say? Oh my darling Eleanor. Don't greet my sincere proposal of marriage with such cold silence. It was such a cold hand. But no matter, warm or cold, this is the hand I wish to take in marriage. So won't you give your poor Henry your answer? You know, Eleanor, I have been patient. I've asked you this question more than once in the past, you will recall. But you said the 15th, and today is the 15th. So, you know, neither of us are getting any younger here, Eleanor. So let us enjoy the years we have ahead of us. And
Duncan! Duncan!
sounds like your granddaughter.
Duncan!
Angus?
Agnes.
Mr. Crick isn't here right now. It's just your grandmother and I. And he seems to be somewhere else, so if you'll just leave the two of us alone. And...
Oh, Mr. Finsbury, I had no idea you were here. My, how quickly the news travels. I know how much you cared for Grandma Huddle. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. She hasn't said no. Have you, my sweet?
I know you would like to pay your respects in private, Mr. Finsbury, so I'll just leave you be until Dr. Witherspoon gets here to fill out the death certificate.
Death certificate?
Now, I cannot find that blasted will anywhere.
It wasn't in her writing desk?
No, it wasn't in the writing desk.
When? How?
The only thing that was in her desk was her old diary, old Valentine's cards, and all the minutes of our Ladies Literary Society meetings.
Mr. Crick, I don't understand.
I suppose I can go through our personal things in our closet, but it seems so appropriate with Grandma Huddle lying there and her not even cold yet.
Cold.
Wait a minute. We don't need to look in this house. Mr. Finsbury has a copy in his office, don't you, Mr. Finsbury?
Eleanor is gone.
Yes, gone from this world, but your money is still in this world, and we need to figure out who gets it.
It's the 15th.
Indeed it is, Mr. Finsbury. A fine date to get a death certificate signed and will read. Where's Dr. Witherspoon?
He was out on call. His housekeeper, Miss Grobmeyer, said he wouldn't be back for at least an hour.
Perfect. That gives us enough time to go down to your office, Mr. Finsbury, and take a little look at that will.
She's dead?
For a lawyer, you don't really catch on to things quickly, do you?
I think he's in shock, Duncan. Everyone knows Mr. Finsbury has a bad heart, so please be gentle with him.
Oh, Mr. Finsbury. Yes, it is true. Grandma Huddle has gone from this world and singing and dancing with angels in the next. Isn't that sweet?
She had a sweet singing voice. I sat behind her in church.
You're right, Mr. Finsbury. Grandma Huddle had a very lovely singing voice, especially before she got her false teeth.
Agnes, let me handle this.
Mr. Crick, she sang like an angel.
Indeed she did. And now that she's in that heavenly choir, we can take a stroll down to your office and look at that will.
You know, Eleanor could also dance. We used to waltz at the annual cotillion.
I've heard stories, Mr. Finsbury. They say when Grandma Huddle danced, her feet hardly touched the ground. Of course, that was before she got bunions on her feet.
Agnes.
I can't believe she's gone.
Gone from this world, but singing and dancing with angels in the next. Now, about the will.
Will?
Yes, Mr. Finsbury, Grandma Huddle's will.
I'm her lawyer. I know all about her will.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, we don't need to go to my office. I know exactly what it says.
Did you hear that, Duncan?
Oh, yes, I did. Now, Mr. Finsbury, Grandma Huddle should have done very well from her favorite granddaughter, Agnes.
Duncan, I'm Grandma Huddle's only granddaughter.
I believe dear Eleanor was more than generous to you, my child. She's left you with $2,000.
Oh my!
$2,000 is nice, but what about the rest?
I don't understand.
Well, Eleanor Huddle had more than $2,000 plus the house, the carriages, her 2 horses, her jewelry, her stocks and bonds.
Don't forget her collection of stuffed birds, Duncan.
Blast the birds, what about the rest?
You mean the estate?
Yes, the
Well,
estate.
that all goes to her cousin Flora Kipling.
What?
Yes, Eleanor was very fond of her cousin Flora.
She was. Poor sweet Flora.
Poor sweet Flora is now rich sweet Flora. How could Mrs. Huddle do this to Agnes, your only granddaughter?
Well, Eleanor always felt sorry for her cousin Flora, a spinster with limited means.
She's old.
And sickly. Something to do with her tonsils, I believe.
So what is an old sickly woman going to do with all of that?
Well, Eleanor thought of her cousin's age when she made out her will, so there's a codicil that says if Flora died before she did, that the whole estate will go to Agnes.
Well, what happens to the money after Flora dies?
I can't tell you that, Mr. Crick. Only her lawyer can divulge that information.
But you must be Cousin Flora's lawyer, Mr. Finsbury.
You're the only lawyer in the whole town.
Cousin Flora's a spinster. She has no children.
You are right about that, Agnes.
So what's she gonna do with the money?
Well, a third of it goes to her housekeeper, Mrs. Sturgis. The other 2/3 go to her church and various charities.
Aw, how sweet.
Not sweet, a disaster.
But Duncan dear, with $2,000 we can buy a house of our own.
We'll have to. No more free room and board. Well, I'll have to go get a job. Oh, a disaster.
I take it Flora Kipling is alive and well?
I saw her being pushed in a wheelchair a week or so back. She looked very well, except for her tonsils.
Oh, a disaster.
I best be off to go see Miss Kipling, give her the good news. Oh, I mean bad news about your cousin.
Oh. Got it. Yes.
Farewell, my dear Eleanor. I think we almost knew the joy of wedded bliss.
What?
Yes, my dear.
Yeah!
I proposed to your grandmother again.
Well, what did she say?
Alas, she gave me the cold shoulder.
Poor Mr. Finsbury.
I am going with you, Mr. Finsbury, to Miss Flora's house.
Whatever for, Duncan.
Maybe I can persuade Miss Flora that you, Agnes, have been left high and dry by Grandma Huddle. And if not, maybe we could get on our list of charities.
Goodbye, Agnes. Try not to take this too hard, losing your grandmother like this. Farewell, my dear love of my life.
While I'm gone, start packing in fire dinners.
What a distressing day. To think I had an engagement ring all ready to give her. Where's these glasses?
Engagement ring? I thought Grandma Huddle was too old to get married again. And her health wasn't very good, to say the least. But poor Mr. Finsbury, him with a bad heart and all. Oh dear, my headache has gotten much worse. I do believe that nurse has been run over by a horse in a buggy or some other unfortunate thing has happened. You know what? I'm gonna get my hat, my purse, and my gloves, and go to Wilson's drugstore myself.
I don't know what to think about these roses. So pitiful. I think that's enough fresh air, Isabel. You best bring Miss Kipling back inside now. How was she?
Perfectly quiet, Mrs. Sturgis.
She didn't ask you to pick her any more roses now, did she?
No, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so relieved. There are precious few left with her wanting to fill the house with roses all the time. These, I'm afraid, have seen their day. Take and toss these out.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I got you a nice cold drink of water. I know how you like a nice cold drink of water after one of your afternoon strolls in the garden. Not thirsty? All right. I know how to take no for an answer. Maybe a cup of tea then. I know sometimes you like tea in the afternoons. Though, oh my, I don't know what to think about this new girl. Do you even trust her to make a decent pot of tea? I mean, I know she means well, but she just has a lot to learn. Maybe we should have paid that Parker girl a little bit more. I know what you're going to say, we couldn't afford it, and well, that's true, I suppose. Well, if you want tea, I can go and make you some. What do you say to that? Miss Flora? Miss Flora? Oh my, Miss Flora! Isabel! Isabel! Oh, what have you got it done?
Yes, ma'am?
Go fetch Dr. Witherspoon right away!
Don't bother, he's not home.
Lucille!
A doctor, ma'am? Don't bother, just run along.
I suppose you do as Miss Cronmeyer says.
Yes, ma'am. If I got news for you, Maud.
Oh, but I got news for you, Lucille. She's dead!
Who's dead?
Miss Flora, how did you know?
I didn't. I came over here to tell you that Eleanor Huddle is dead.
She is?
Her granddaughter Agnes came looking for the doctor.
So Eleanor's sick then?
Nope, dead. She needed Dr. Witherspoon to fill out a death certificate, but he's not here, so.
Oh, I don't know what to think. Wait, Lucille, when did Eleanor Huddle die?
Within the hour is my guess. Does it matter?
But of course it does. Miss Flora inherits all of Eleanor's money when she dies. Miss Flora will become a very rich woman.
And I'm sure Miss Flora will be very generous to you after all these years.
But if Miss Flora dies before Miss Kipling does, then all of Eleanor's money goes to her granddaughter Agnes.
You don't say.
Oh, but I do.
How did you find this out?
Old Henry Finsbury told me last Christmas when he had one too many drinks of wine.
So if Miss Flora died first,
I will only get what Miss Flora left me, which is pitiful to nothing.
and how'd you find this out?
I don't know how to tell you.
Tell me.
Miss Flora has a copy of her will here at the house. I just happened to find it one day after spending an hour searching for it last month. I get her rabbit fur coat, her collection of porcelain thimbles, and 1/3 of her money. The churches and some other charities get the other 2/3.
But if Eleanor Huddle died first, Miss Flora gets everything?
Yes, except for a bit of that money goes to her granddaughter Agnes, but most of it goes to Miss Flora.
And how long has Miss Flora been dead?
Oh, she was alive, breathing and talking just before they went on their garden stroll. Now look at her. Such a concerning situation. Just give me some water. Oh dear, what is it now, Isabel? Can't you see that Miss Grommeyer and I are busy?
Busy talking to Miss Flora.
But Mr. Finsbury is here, and Mr. Pick is with him. They want to speak with Miss Flora.
Oh, but they can't.
Oh, but they can, huh? Miss Flora's just requested to take another round of but
She has?
of course she has, Ma. Don't you recall? So you be good, dear, and take her around, and we'll see to Mr. Finsbury and Mr. Crick.
What if she has to pick more roses?
Believe me, dear, she won't. Now off you go.
Lucille, what are you doing?
Don't you see, Ma? You have to prove that Miss Flora was still alive when Eleanor Huddle died.
But what happens when Isabel comes back with Miss Flora dead?
Then you will act shocked and say she must have just died. That means that Eleanor Huddle was dead before Miss Flora was, and therefore Miss Flora inherits the bundle and 1/3 of the money for you.
Oh, I see. I don't know what to think anymore.
Don't think, Ma. Just do as I say.
But what will we say?
Not we. You have to do this on your own. I can't be here when Finsbury and Frick get here because they know I work for the doctor's office and they might get suspicious.
I guess you're right.
Of course I am. Now just remember to act surprised. As for that little maid of yours, she will not act. Good luck.
Oh my. Mr. Finsbury! Mr. Crick, what a pleasant surprise. Please, come into the sitting room.
Mrs. Sturgis, we have to speak to Miss Flora right away. I'm afraid it'll be a surprise for her, but not a pleasant one.
Gentlemen, please, have a seat. Miss Flora is, at the moment, in the garden enjoying an afternoon stroll in the sunshine.
Wait, I thought she was sickly.
Oh yes, Mr. Rick, how she suffers with her tonsils.
She ought to have them out.
Poor thing, the doctor doesn't think that she would survive the operation.
But how could she be walking around the garden if she's sickly?
Oh, she hasn't walked these past 2 years. Our new maid Isabel is pushing her around in the garden.
I see.
Oh, look, I think they're returning at this very minute.
Good, because we have very pressing business with them.
How was she, Isabel?
Perfectly quiet, Mrs. Sturgis.
Was she really? She was just chatting about just before the two of you guys left, though.
Miss Flora, I fear I have some bad news to relate to you.
Nothing too serious, I hope.
Dad, serious.
Do you hear me, Miss Flora? You know, it may be my eyes. I'm wearing the wrong specs, but she doesn't seem to be responding to me.
Perhaps she has fallen asleep. The warm sunshine sometimes does that to her.
We'll wake her up. This is urgent.
If you insist, Mr. Crick. Miss Flora. Miss Flora, it's time to wake up.
What's the matter with her?
Perhaps her tonsils are acting up again?
Mrs. Sturgis?
What is it now, Isabel?
I think she's.
I may be half blind, but even I can see that this woman is dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
Oh my, but only 10 minutes ago she was talking about the roses and alive and
Wait a minute. You say 10 minutes?
But of course.
Perhaps she died when the maid was pushing her around.
That must be it.
The timing is essential. You say 10 minutes ago.
Maybe 9 or 8, but definitely no more than 10.
And what do you say, young lady?
Slave alert.
Nurse! 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 What is the idea of leaving a poor, sick old woman alone like this? Can't even get up. Nurse!
What is it, Grandma Huddle?
I asked you for the nurse. Where's the nurse?
The nurse?
Yes, child. The nurse. Where is the nurse? Are you taking too much of your headache pills again?
Oh, the nurse? Duncan told me to fire her.
Fire the nurse? What kind? Angus! Agnes!
Oh, I was so nervous I thought I'd faint.
Did your maid give anything away?
Oh no, she was the one who did faint.
Oh, good.
I told them that Miss Flora must have died when they were on their stroll in the garden.
Do they believe you?
I think so. Mr. Crick was not happy about it at all. Not one bit.
Of course he wasn't. Everyone knows Duncan Crick only married Agnes for the Huddle fortune.
And then Mr. Finsbury said something about a death certificate.
Dr. Witherspoon will take care of that.
Oh, I don't know what to think. I hope nothing goes wrong.
What can go wrong, Maud? Miss Flora died after Miss Huddle. Think of the money you'll finally have.
I guess you're right. Maybe I can retire and buy a nice little house on the village green.
A nice little house. With that money, you'll be able to afford the Huddle mansion.
I can't recall what Eleanor's will says about her house.
Miss Flora has a will?
Yes, it's in her dresser in her room.
Why don't I go take a look at it?
If you say so.
Come on, Maud.
I'm always so parched after I turn to the garden. I was out for quite a while. Dead to the world, some might say. Oh no! Now where are my roses? I distinctly remember assembling them in a vase and placing them on the table this morning. Oh, Isabel, dear, what happened to my flowers? Oh, this new girl simply will not do. I better pick some fresh ones myself.
She's gone!
I wonder where she went.
Her body's missing.
Who could have stolen her?
Oh my, grave robbers!
I don't think she was stolen.
Grave robbery, she wasn't even buried yet.
Maybe the nurse took her.
Oh my, looks like as if Isabel's fainted again.
Not the nurse. I fired her.
Poor Isabel.
So water will revive her.
You fired the nurse?
Poor Isabel, here, let me try.
You told me to.
to. And that's what I told Grandma Huddle when she asked where the nurse was.
Not like that.
You talk to Mrs. Huddle.
Where am I?
I can talk to my grandmother if I want to. You just fainted all, that's all.
You actually talk to.
It was Miss Flora. She was standing right over there.
Certainly I did. She was alive.
She asked where her roses were.
She asked where the nurse was.
Mama, do you know what this means?
Agnes, do you know what this means?
What? What?
We're rich.
Miss Flora is still alive and Eleanor Huddle is dead. You are rich.
Because Miss Flora's dead, and Miss Huddle's still alive. So we're rich.
Miss Flora!
Put these in some water, dear. I'm exhausted. My hands and feet, they were so cold last night in that bed. I just couldn't believe it.
Grandma Huddle.
Put this on the bed here. Miss Flora, we thought.
Grandma Huddle, we thought.
Just do as I say,
Just do
child.
as I say, child.
We are so glad to see that you are feeling better.
It was my tonsils. I blacked out for a while.
Oh, yes, I was out for quite some time, wasn't I?
You certainly had us worried there.
Stop your fussing.
I don't know what you're fussing about.
Sorry I fired the nurse, Grandma Huddle.
I'm sorry I threw out your roses, Miss Flora, but these new ones will look so much nicer.
Oh, I had the strangest dream last night.
Well, I was out of it, and I had this dream.
A dream? About what?
Money.
Grandma Huddle, you shouldn't worry yourself over such things.
Miss Flora, you don't need to be getting so upset about money. We'll manage somehow.
You know, I have been thinking about changing my will.
You know, all the same, I'm thinking of changing my will.
Your will?
Yes, the next time I see Mr. Finsbury.
I think I should talk to Mr. Finsbury.
Oh, Grandma Huddle, there's no need to.
Mr. Finsbury is a busy man.
My flowers.
There was no one downstairs, and the front door was open.
Henry, just the man we were talking about. Come, come.
I talked to the coroner, and
On your way now. Watch my feet. The coroner. Whatever for. What? Henry? Yes, there you are. What? What?
Eleanor?
Henry? The coroner? Who died?
You. I mean, I.
Henry! Help me! Somebody help me!
Is he dead?
Wonder who's in his will.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the cast of the first act. Grandma's Will's grandma. We have Grandma Madison Meade. Roderick Zimmerman. Tyler. Laura Zimmerman. Daphne Zimmerman. Victoria. Citizen Canister. Kinsey. Mrs. McCreevy. Leah. Ariel Wells. Victoria R. And Will Singleton. Brenda. Thank you. The cast of Grandma's Will, the second act. We have Mrs. Frogmeyer, Victoria A. Isabel, Leah. Miss Flora Kipling, Michaela. Mrs. Sturgis, Anna. Sorry. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast, where there's a will, there's a way. Make sure everybody's in there. Yes.